Former Meath star Bernard Flynn. Bernard, if I can go to you, because here we are Wednesday and we're talking about referees. What did you make of the referee in last Sunday's match between Dublin and Kildare?
Well, I was at a number of matches the weekend. I went up to Breffni Park as well, and we'll come back to in a few minutes there the yellow cards and the amount of them that were needlessly given. You know, that instant, we've seen it there. It's not easy. You know, I thought it was a poor call at the end of a game. I personally wouldn't have given it. I don't know how Micheál Curley could turn out and say it was a 100% correct decision when he wasn't even at the game himself. It was a tough call. I believe Cormac Riley when he actually said he looked down the field and he blew what he seen. He thought was a free, but there was a number of those incidents going on throughout the game. The first half, there was fellas pulling, tugging, you know, going for balls. There was a lot of it going on all over the field, particularly defensively when the defenders were outnumbered. So a very, very tough call, but it's not just that. I think it's the overall standard of refereeing that has disappointed me today in the championship this year. And I think there's been too many wrong calls, too many big calls that have been got wrong, and we need to improve it, and they need to improve it, but we need to do it together. Past players, managers, present players. It's not us against them. And that's why I think Micheál Curley has been completely wrong this week. You know, Kieran McGeeney was ready to bury it, leave it where it was, but he just kept it going and fueled it. And I don't think it helped anybody what he came out and said this week.
Marie, what did you think of what Mick Curley said? I mean, he is the chairman of the National Referees Committee, but did you think he was right to defend the referee?
I think he probably shouldn't have said anything and just got on with it. I mean, like, we all know that there's a problem here. I mean, the referees, there's too many mistakes being made. Now, I actually spoke to an assessor during the week just to kind of try and get a handle on how these referees are being assessed, because I think there's a bigger picture here. The assessor, he broke down 7 different areas that they're being assessed under. There is technical fouls, there is aggressive fouls, there is fitness, there is things like control, things like their relationship with the officials, the scoreline. There's 6 or 7 different areas that they're being assessed under. But I actually sat beside an assessor just by pure coincidence at a match in Moore Park a few weeks ago. And it's just one guy sitting there with a stopwatch and a clipboard. And when you think of the 7 areas that this person has to go through, sitting there by himself, I just don't think that the whole assessment process is good enough, because there's no way that that person could assess a referee across the board just by himself. I think they need to maybe take a look at that and then reform the whole assessment process, and I think that would definitely bring more of an improvement to the whole situation.
Tomas, from a player's point of view, I mean, what annoys the players in terms of referees?
Well, I suppose I can't say much now bad about referees, you know, still playing and all. But I don't know, I think the biggest point from players is they want a bit of consistency. You know, you see things happening in one game, and depending on the referee you have, it might be different in the next game. I mean, you have different tackles and fellas getting suspensions for certain things and things not being seen in other games, and I suppose it's very hard on referees to spot everything that's happening, but I suppose consistency is the main thing. I think, to be fair, in my opinion, the best referee in the country over the past 10 years is Pat McEnany, who used a lot of common sense. I think he uses a lot of common sense, and he knows players, he knows teams, and he knows the run of the game, and he leaves it go to a certain extent, and he uses a lot of common sense. And I think referees at the moment are under too much pressure from whoever's in charge of them, and they have rules and everything. And I mean, you can't blame them. They're doing what they're being told, and it's putting a little bit too much pressure on them.
But and the only element was, I'd say, if you look at it, like, everyone's not wrong. It's a tough job, the referee's job. We all know that, and I'd respect them. Pat McEnany, you're right. He was respected different than all the other referees. He commanded that respect. He used common sense. He let a lot more go than others would. But the amount I was up in Breffni Park the other night there. The Longford-Cavan match, it was anything but tough. You know, for Cavan or anything but hard, tougher. It was like a training session. 12 yellow cards, 2 red cards. It was crazy. That's the stuff that's actually killing people whatsoever. Too much of it. And if you look at it, right, past players, assessors, a lot of these assessors are actually failed referees, poor referees, a lot of them. Why is managers not on the committee involved with the referees? Why are ex-players not involved?
But to be fair now, Bernard, some of the assessors are former top-class referees.
Where are players and managers involved?
They've done the game and they've done it very well.
But where's the players and managers involved in the process? They're not involved in the process. They're being kept out. It's a little cartel inside there. That's the problem. Why aren't past players involved and becoming referees? Why are they not enticed to do so?
But Bernard, it's almost impossible to get former referees at times or former footballers to get involved with their own teams.
No, there's good players that if there were actually 30, 40 people of a panel there, 28, 29 years of age, respected, well-grounded guys that would be respected throughout the whole of the GA. They should be brought in there, trained up, helped, being brought into the situation, involved with assessors, involved with referees, trying to help and improve them. Not this thing of a standoff, us against them. There's too much of that, and that's the biggest problem they have.
I think refereeing, though, it's so contentious. I don't think anybody even wants to be involved in it. I mean, we got a letter into the Sunday Independent last week with someone highlighting an issue that happened 30 years ago, a refereeing decision that person thought was bad. Yet there was no way for me to find out about that decision, because I wasn't alive, it wasn't on YouTube, there was no Sunday game. Whereas nowadays, if something happens, we can type it into YouTube, we can go on to Real Player, we can go on to our recordings of the match, we can forward it back and zoom in, and we can draw circles on it, and we can examine it so much that it's a real hard thing for people to get involved in, because there's just way too much pressure.
But Tomas, honestly now, all the managers can't be wrong. They're actually pulling their hair out. I mean, Kieran McGeeney is ready to just explode with the whole thing. And several other managers, I spoke to 2 or 3 of them yesterday, present players, they're all actually complaining about the inconsistency. Not so much about Cormac Riley tried his best, and for most parts of the decent game. It's the inconsistency. The best example of all was the first round this year, Wicklow down in Portlaoise against Kildare. The referee got injured. The other referee came on. It was 2 different games completely, and the yellow cards is a joke. But Tomas, they can't be all wrong. Players are giving out about left, right and centre. It needs to improve. What do you think?
I think it does. I mean, I suppose when players, from a point of view of players anyway, when players are held accountable after matches and there's video cameras on them and they can be taken up and they can receive bans after matches, then they might get a bit cranky when there's decisions made that go against players and there's nothing can be done about that. And I think that's the main.
You served your time 8 weeks for a red card, right? He has to do it. Where players, if they play bad, they're taken off. Managers sacked if they don't do the job right, right? You get 6 or 8 weeks like Tomas got it. That's it, fair and square. You move on.
I agree with you there.
But what about referees? Hold on. The biggest worst statement of all this year was Martin Sludden, probably the biggest travesty of all time, was what happened with Martin Sludden, Loud and me last year. What happens? They reinstate him in the top echelon of the top 18 referees this year. What sort of a statement did that say?
But Bernard, what is the solution? It's grand to criticise, but what is the solution? Croke Park are actually trying to put a plan, trying to put a plan together so that we have consistency across the board. It mightn't be working, but they are trying. But what's your solution?
Whistle-happy referees is the problem. They love to hear the whistle blown. That's the biggest problem. Letting freeze, giving freeze. How many fellas are afraid to go into a hard tackle now? They really are afraid to go in for. Thomas, it's true. A hard tackle, going hard for the ball. You know why? If they're late, they're gone. Look at it this year. Micheál Murphy sent off in the wrong. Dick Clerkin sent off in the wrong. Brian Farrell sent off in the wrong. Keith Higgins should have got a red card last week. He should have got a red card. It's across the board. Big decisions are being got wrong. Look at last year as well. And many big decisions are being got wrong.
I think Bernard hit the nail on the head there when he said that elite panel of 18 referees, I think that's 12 for hurling. If somebody makes a big mistake, they should be cut from that panel and they should have to earn their way back up again if they ever get back up again. But letting people that have made serious and grave mistakes and, you know, affected the outcome of a match shouldn't be allowed to referee a match.
This man's paying the price for 8 weeks, a red card. It should be across the board. Accountable, everybody, referees included.
Would you like to be a referee when you retire?
I wouldn't, Marty, to be honest with you. The likes of Bernard giving out about you all the time.
Oh no, I'm not. Definitely not.
No, it's a very tough job and it's a thankless job at best. You know, you never hear about a referee after a great match. Yeah. After he's doing well, no mistakes, but you always hear about him when there's something to talk about.
Okay, well, my thanks to Bernard for joining us. Marie and Tomas are staying with us. Coming up, we'll be looking forward to the 2 big provincial finals, and indeed we'll be joined to appear in the Ulster final for the first time since 1946. A member of their senior hurling team, Paul McCormick, is hoping it is only the start of a revolution.
In Armagh here, Katie would be probably one of the strongest clubs, and you could throw a blanket of about 6 or 7 miles around this area where you'd have 4 strong hurling clubs and strong hurling areas with really, you know, super hurling people. We're lucky here where there is that interest. We have 28 hurlers in the field here tonight, and there's clubs out the road will have 20 plus as well, and we're hoping just that we keep those boys involved in the game. Well, this is Aileen and she's now in the nursery programme here in Katie Lovejoy, where boys and girls from the age of 3 to 6 can come down and practice their fundamental skills of running, jumping, and basically introduce them to the hurling club as well. Again, that's helping promote hurling to people who haven't been involved in it before, and hopefully that they will stay with hurling and their children will stay with hurling and camogie. Give us a thumbs up. There's more of a push from board level at underage structures, and that has transformed really the way hurling has improved in Armagh. The last number of years we've been places where we maybe could only dream about. With the introduction of the Nicky record, really saved hurling in Armagh and I suppose a lot of weaker counties, and we've been treated more as equals regarding with the footballers, and that wee bit of respect is what we were looking for. On Sunday, 3rd of July, we're taking on Antrim in Casement Park in the Ulster Senior Hurling Final, something that an Armagh team hasn't done for 60-odd years. Would have been hard to believe that we would get there, 13, 14 years ago, but hopefully that'll inspire other counties to look at us maybe, and I'm not saying we know it all, but we're certainly doing things, some things right. There's lads picking up sticks that mightn't have done so before. But hopefully we can still climb the ladder. We know it's going to be tough. It's a slow process, but hopefully it's not going to be 63 years till we're back in another Ulster final.
Hopefully they can continue the good work in Armagh. Marie, can Armagh's improvement be replicated in other weaker hurling counties, do you think?
I definitely think so, Marty. One thing I learned from growing up in Sixmilebridge, where hurling's way of life, is that a hurling apprenticeship is probably the longest apprenticeship that anyone's going to have to serve. But you need to start when kids are 4 and 5 years of age and continue it right into adulthood. We don't have to look too far outside our own county to see examples of that. Shawnee McMahon didn't even make his own club minor team when he was 17. He got in for a county final because the full-back got injured. Brian Lohan was a sub on the Shannon Comprehensive Harty team. Yeah. So, they need to be given the time to develop. I mean, it's not going into schools at 12 and 13, I don't think is really good enough, because kids aren't going to pick it up. They need to go in at 4 and 5, and if they do that and start right at the bottom and build it up, then definitely it could work out.
Stephen Heine, welcome to the committee room. In terms of when you were a kid, was that what happened? That Dublin County Board, they put a lot of investment into hurling?
I suppose so, especially now there's a lot of nurseries, and it's massive throughout Dublin, the amount of hurling that's going on. But when I was, I think it was under 13, under 14, it was part of the first, I think, development squad, which is going back, I suppose, 12, 13 years ago. And that was the start of it with Dublin. They set out their goals and they started then, and we're starting to see maybe the fruitions of that coming through now with the success that's coming to us slowly, but it's getting there. But that I suppose that is the big thing that was pointed out in the clip as well. It doesn't happen overnight. Like that was, as we said, 2001 when Dublin really set out the goals and starting from grassroots level and just working the whole way up and bringing it through slowly. It doesn't happen overnight, and I think we're starting to see it coming through in Dublin now. And
can Armagh do what Dublin have already done and win perhaps a national title or get to a provincial final? In fact, they're in the Ulster final.
Yeah, they're in the final now against Antrim, and they had a great win. I suppose they've beaten Fermanagh. They bet Monaghan well. They bet Down, which probably would have been perceived as the second strongest team probably in Ulster, and it's great for them to be in the final now. And again, it's just year after year they have to progress on from this, and they'll put it up to Antrim now, absolutely.
Dublin had a 10-year plan, which obviously is 2001. Have they achieved their objectives, do you think?
Well, we were having a look at it ourselves there when we were sitting outside, and we were saying people would have probably been laughing at it when they first put it together, because at the time they said that they wanted hurling to be the #1 Gaelic sport in Dublin. Now, I mean, it's really hard to measure that, but when you look at all the young lads walking around carrying hurleys in their hands, I mean, you could nearly say that. They also said that they wanted to be an All-Ireland winning county by 2008. Now, they won the All-Ireland schools in 2006, and if you look at how well they've done, in the years after that, you could say that they've almost done it as well. And they also had certain goals that they wanted to achieve in order to be regarded as successful. And I'll just tell you a few of them, Marty. One of them was to have management and coaches that were that other counties would look at and be enviable of them, that they were that professional, and I think they've done that with Anthony Daly. They also wanted to be, and their other coaches of course, and they wanted to be in the top 6 counties in the country, and I think they've done that as well.
Absolutely.
And they also wanted their hurling counterparts to look at them and see them as leaders, and I would say that a lot of other counties would look at Dublin now and they'd want to follow in their footsteps.
Okay, right. Well, Dublin's hard work over the years has yielded another Leinster hurling final, and that's just one of 2 big provincial finals on Sunday.
Goulding! Here's a goal chance, and it's over the bar. Cooper! one for the goalkeeper. Drops it down and it's in the back of the net. Looking for Donaghy. This is a goal chance, and that is a beauty. Tripped Cork lose a man. O'Shea's kick. What a point by Mark O'Shea. And it's still in play, and Richie Hogan plays it, and Eddie Brennan finishes it into the back of the net. Good response to the goal.
All looking forward to the Leinster hurling final. Must be awful to be missing it with that knee injury, and of course being captain as well, Stephen.
Yeah, well, it's to be honest, it is. It's frustrating, but it's great to be there. You know that the team is progressing each year, and the way of looking at it, I suppose, for myself, trying to get back for next year is trying to get back into a good team, a successful team. You know, that's the way you have to look at it. But no, it is frustrating sitting on the sideline watching it. But hopefully now they can do the business now on Sunday.
Tomas, you know, you've been part of Kerry teams that have been missing players through injury. Can you turn it around, the team itself, when you're missing somebody of the calibre of Stephen Heine, and make it a motivating factor?
Well, you can, of course, Marty. It's been proven in the past. Lots of teams have done that. I mean, we've missed players down the years. Maybe we haven't done as well. Maybe without them in recent past, we've missed a lot of players, and you get on with it and you have to adapt. I mean, there's no point in crying over fellas that are missing or whatever. You'll have to get on and make do with what you have, and that's what we try to do anyway when we're missing fellas.
Marie, in terms of the Leinster hurling final, let's concentrate on that. Kilkenny have all the motivation that they could possibly need, really.
But in saying that, Marty, Dublin don't have any Leinster medals, whereas Kilkenny have loads of them. But, you know, they're missing Stephen, they're missing Tom Brady, you know, they've got a lot of, Ryan O'Dwyer is suspended, so they're down a lot of personnel, and to keep Kilkenny at bay for 70 minutes will be quite difficult, so I'd say Kilkenny will probably do it.
So you're going for Kilkenny?
Yeah.
Stephen, need I ask the question, Stephen?
I disagree, but I think this year, especially other years where we've maybe lost a few players throughout the year, we've really struggled. And we wouldn't have had the strength and the depth in the team. But I think this year our panel has proved that. Like, we've brought on 5 subs maybe every game, and people coming in off the bench have really lifted the game again. So I wouldn't be so concerned. The players who are going to come in are going to do a great job. Whoever for Tom Brady and for Ryan O'Dwyer, we're going to be missing. They're massive men to miss, and Dave Tracy be gone as well. But I think the lads that we have on the bench and the boys in the panel, like, everyone is really training well, and I think they'll come in and they'll do the job.
As a great hurler from West Kerry, Tomas, who do you think will win this Leinster hurling title?
I think it'll be a very good final. Watching the league final, it was a great game. It was great to see Dublin.
Careful what you're saying.
But I think Kilkenny are a great team, and they've been around a long time. I think last year probably hurt them a lot, and probably the earlier game with Dublin hurt them a lot. So it'll make for a very interesting game. I'd say there'll be hunger on both sides, and it'll make for a good fair, I'd say.
Okay, Marie, in terms of the qualifiers, Clare against Galway and Pearse Stadium, Limerick against Wexford, how do you see those games going?
I think that Clare are going to struggle against Galway. Dara Conan's injured now as well, so I just think that, you know, they're getting credited for their moral victory last weekend against Tipperary, but they still lost by 9 points, and, you know, like, losing by that much, like, it's not good enough, really, Marty. You know, and I just think that there'll be an awful lot of backlash. It's difficult when you're not playing, and especially you want to play in all the big games, and Cork doesn't come bigger than Cork at the moment. It'll be a very, very tough game. It's a game Kerry are looking forward to. Every time Cork come to Killarney, it's always a big occasion, and in recent times there's been a few draws and very close, tight games, you know, and I expect nothing less Sunday. Maybe Cork would be coming with an extra swagger after winning the All-Ireland, after winning the last 3 national titles, and you know, I mean, say up for the last few years there, people might not have been giving them the credit. I think they are getting the credit now that they are a very good team, and but having said that, I mean, we have our strengths as well, and I think it'll make for a great contest. I think Cork are very strong around the middle of the field, but that if Kerry got enough ball into that forward line, that they could possibly do damage as well.
Okay, Stephen Heine, I know you played football as well for Dublin at minor under 21 level. Call it for me, Cork or Kerry? Now he has to be careful.
Yeah, he was quite diplomatic with his answer. I won't be so. I'd say Cork are going to win it.
So a big weekend, and you can see